Hello, everyone, and welcome to CX Unplugged. I'm your host, Gabrielle Gonzalez, and in today's episode, we're going to hear from a maintenance industry superstar and veteran, Sam Stahl, and an impressive industry up-and-comer, Jace Everling, about how a boomer and a Gen Z synergize to create an award-winning culture. Sam Stahl is the Director of Maintenance and Training and Development for BAM Management. Sam brings decades of experience in the multifamily maintenance and construction arena and has been a coach and mentor for some of the most well-respected leaders in our industry. Sam has received numerous awards and accolades from the IAA, including Maintenance Technician of the Year. He has been engaged by the IAA and other organizations to instruct maintenance courses and design workshops for participants with varying degrees of experience and skill. Outside of work, Sam enjoys camping and riding his Harley and spending time with his beautiful wife. Jace, welcome. Also, Jace Everling brings his human resources degree, his SHRM certification, and his Master's of Business Administration. He's got a passion for people and experiences from various industries to the BAM companies team. After receiving his Bachelor's of Business, that's a tongue twister for me, sorry, from the Kelley School of Business Honors Program at IU Purdue University, Indianapolis. He began his career at the BAM companies in July of 2020. During his work experience prior to coming to BAM, he was able to cultivate a variety of experiences in retail, higher education, operations, and team leadership. In May of 2023, he graduated with his MBA and holds a SHRM CP certification as of December 2021. As a human resources manager, Jace is responsible for the hiring, development, training, compensation, and workplace culture of the BAM company's impressive roster of talent. Since joining the company, he's continued to grow and was promoted in May of 2023 as the Director of Operations, which now includes oversight of administration and information technology as well. Jace is thankful for the opportunity to work with such an incredible, motivated, and insightful group of individuals every day, and is excited for the future that BAM has in store. And so am I, because it's so impressive, all the stuff I see on LinkedIn and other places, and just the experiences I've had with many of the employees. So welcome to both of you. I thank you so much for taking your time to be here with me and with our listeners and watchers as well. We're really happy to have you guys here.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Yeah. It's not all the time that I get to work one-on-one with Sam, so this is a great opportunity for the two of us too. So thank you.
Great. Well, before we get started, I always like to start off each podcast by encouraging everyone to throw out that old tired notion that, the customer is only the end user, or in our business, it's the resident, right? A while back, I redefined the customer as anyone who we interact with as a representative of our company, right? So that is who the customer is when we're talking in my podcast and when we're going to be talking about in CX Unplugged. And in today's episode, we're going to discuss how an emphasis on the employee as the key customer drives performance. And there's no people better to talk to about that than you guys at the BAM companies. So, guys, I was so happy and excited to get you guys on here because I know that there's a lot of people who will be interested in how they can, what you guys are doing to be so successful and also what they might be able to do. So there's going to be some hopefully great takeaways here. But for those who maybe aren't completely aware yet, the BAM companies do have properties throughout the Midwest. They've got tons of units. They're growing like crazy. They've been recognized as the best places to work. They've made the list of the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies 6 years in a row. And it's really clear that BAM places a really strong emphasis on creating a positive employee customer experience. So I'm I'm curious, right, to learn about your culture and how it focuses on employees.
Yeah, I would love to start by saying that having the ability to be empowered by leadership to really create an effective and positive culture is one of the main drivers for us. It gives us free reign to make decisions that make a positive impact on employees day to day. And so our the two kind of heads of the company, Ivan Barrett and Adam Arrett, are so keen on this being a people company and trying to be intentional. Adam says a lot that we're not here to check a box. We're not here to say, oh, we have this benefit. We should be a good place to work now. It's a lot more than that. It's deeper than that. And it has to do with everyone that we have the honor of interacting with on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I would agree. It starts at the leadership within this company, and that's what actually brought me out of retirement after I met the leadership here, Adam. And so I've been fortunate to have a great career in this industry, but I feel like I'm at the top of my game right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like, yeah, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say having Sam here has really put us at the top of our game too. And we'd love for Sam to share more later in the episode, but the experiences that he's had previously and just the differences that are here and how that translates to the employee experience as, you know, one of our kind of customers as you defined it is really, really exciting for us. So
It sounds like, there's the intentionality is maybe a key part there too, but also, I think you touched on something that I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to is that, a lot of companies have core values or, a mission statement or whatever, but it really comes off more as like rhetoric, right? I mean, um, we can all come up with great things that sound good, like great sound bites, but really being able to walk that walk, that's the tough part. And I think, specifically if you talk about it to employees these days, right, where everybody seems to have a shortage of employees, of good people to come in, especially in our business, you've got to have those people that can dig deep routinely to provide that hospitality, right, to our end users. And it starts with providing it to one another, right? So I feel like that's something that you guys emphasize a lot there. Are there any specific techniques or policies or rules, or I don't want to call them rules, that's really not the word I'm looking for, but like, is there anything in particular that you can think of that helps you guys execute like that, or your BAM fam, how they operate, that really helps to demonstrate that you walk that walk?
think so. I can quickly give a kind of a history of how the core values were founded in that exercise, because that's really sets the tone for, I think, why it's been able to have such a robust life within the company. So it was probably 6 or 7 years ago, leadership sat down, and the main goal they had was not to create an aspirational core value or an aspirational culture, but to simply look at what's going well right now. And so they were able to distill in 4 areas what really was the strength of the company's culture and put that in writing. And so now we've been able to take that. And since I started 4 years ago, we've just found more and more ways to put that into the everyday language of the employee, to the point where some property managers will frame those core values just on their own choice and frame them and put them in the clubhouses, because they're like, if it's good enough for us, it's good enough also for how we should treat our residents. And so that's the second part of what I was going to say, is that it really is kind of like we pour into the employees, and then from there that experience overflows into the end user. Like you said, it really does start with the employee first for us, and internally we don't put a huge emphasis on the end user, only because that should be the natural byproduct of having a strong culture and being treated well internally, and that's our priority.
And for me, I think it comes down to a communication piece that we have. I was introduced to Slack when I got here, something that I was not familiar with. But what is allows us to do is comment on everything from A to Z when somebody makes a comment, or somebody got promoted, somebody took a class, somebody got a certification. So we're constantly on Slack promoting our people, elevating our people, and it's daily. So it does not stop.
And it's like it's a double-edged sword in that way. It really doesn't stop, but it's wonderful because our industry is so naturally siloed that you've got a property here and a property here and a property here. And Slack has been a really, really wonderful way for us all to connect. And so we've built a lot of our policies within Slack. When an employee starts, they actually take a training course on how to effectively use that software. And then we just require you to have your picture and your title attached. That way, people talking with you on there, when they see you at a company event, they'll at least know that much about you, and the relationship can take off from there.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. And I love how you said, Jace, that it should be a byproduct. That experience to your end user, right, should be a byproduct of what the company is putting into the employees. And I think that makes so much sense. That's so cool. Sam, you obviously, you have had experiences with several companies throughout your tenure. And I understand you mentioned earlier that you came out of retirement to work for BAM. So, I mean, that had to be pretty compelling to get you to come out of retirement. You were like, I've been there, done that, had my success. I'm at the top of my game. I'm going to relax a little bit, maybe ride my Harley, hang out with my wife. But BAM compelled you to come back in. And now you say you're at the top of your game. Can you tell us a little bit about how or why you made that decision?
Well, so Danny, my son, is a VP here of maintenance, and he would come home telling me stories of what a great company BAM was, and I would listen to him as I normally do. And he come home one night and said that they were going to look for a trainer for maintenance, and it kind of piqued my interest because the position was about training and training only and development. It wasn't about me doing a whole set of other jobs and training, which I've done in the past, which is very difficult. So it allowed me to just focus on the training. And but once I met Adam and some people here, Jace would be one, it was a no-brainer for me to come out of retirement because I knew with what Adam had said, I was going to be able to produce whatever I felt the maintenance people needed to be successful.
Yeah, and it sounds like based on all of this growth and great culture and all this recognition you guys are getting from externally, as well as what I'm seeing and hearing internally, that's working. So kudos to you guys. And I guess one other question I have in that space is, can you give maybe a tip or something, a helpful tip to our listeners of something that they might be able to do? Maybe they're struggling and in a growth mode right now, or they're struggling to get enough folks to stay, or maybe they're having a lot of employee turnover right now. Are there any tips that you guys could give them to maybe help get out of that space and turn things around?
Well, I can't give you a tip, but what I can tell you, it's a number of things. It has to be everything that the company's doing in order to retain those people. And I can't say it enough about what we do around here on a positive note that keeps people wanting to stay with BAM. So it's just the culture. It's hard to explain. I'm sure Jace could do a better job at it, but it's really just the culture. I don't know how else to put it.
The thing that I would say too, especially with our conversation being more maintenance centric, especially with Sam's experience, is that one thing we've noticed is that with there being so many new apartment builds, it's really stretching the existing talent that's tenured really, really thin. And so we've got all these people that have experience, and now, like Sam said in his previous roles, you're doing your normal job and you're also doing a lot of training at the same time. And so when you're overwhelmed like that, it's really difficult to engage this green person that's walking in the door. We've got people here that, have been promoted a couple times that are in maintenance that I can think of one example. It's perfect. He was a delivery driver with Jimmy John's. He had a lot of hustle. He had a lot of drive. We hired him into a maintenance role, and now he's a supervisor. And so just making sure that we can engage with those people. Like I said, it's that intentionality, create a relationship with them, express to them, like Sam said, the culture, walk the walk. Don't just say, hey, you can grow if you work here. We make a point of posting every single opening we have internally on Slack. Usually every other week we have a post that goes out. That way everyone's aware of where the opportunities are. And with that in mind, there's also this whole idea of career mapping and pathing that Sam's doing a ton of work with. We've got an apprentice program. You graduate that, you become a BAM pro. You graduate that program, you become an elite. And so there's these different levels that they can progress through that create a way to retain people. They're staying engaged, because I can speak from a, Gen Z perspective. A lot of what keeps me going is enrichment and just making sure that I'm developing. That doesn't mean you have to promote that person. You just have to keep them engaged, make sure they're learning something new. That learning should translate somewhere to some type of reward, which Sam has done a good job kind of capturing within his own program. But it creates these people that have learned, they're now ready for the next step, and then the next step again by the end. So that's what I would say, just career mapping, and then trying to connect people to this, retain them, because it's a career. And I think that that's a lot of what we're learning right now, is there's just a lot of green people that understand that this can be long-term if you want it to be.
And I would like to add to that one other thing. So we have actually had people within this company that have actually moved their family to Iowa to stay with the company, to go out there and to help develop and maintain properties that we have purchased in Iowa. And we've had a number of people do that, and they continue to do it. And some of those people are coming back home this year, but they went out there for the betterment of the company to get it on the right track and get people trained to the point they could leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like that there's a real testament to it. I keep hearing it go back to that, having that core belief, right? That continuing to invest in those relationships, those employees, is going to pay dividends outward, right? Because you picked people. There's so much goodness. One of the things I always say is I feel like most people are good and want to do the right thing. It's just a matter of like making sure they know what the right thing is. Like, what does a good job actually look like from my perspective, if I'm the boss, or whatever, but, or the company, right? What does a good job actually look like? And here are the tools that you may need to accomplish exactly that. And it sounds like that's what you guys are doing continuously. And like you guys said, this engagement word. So, right. And that's, again, it's, you guys are hitting that fundamental human need of people, of, continuing to keep them engaged and learning and growing. And then they want to put that back into the company or their coworkers as well. So that's awesome. So Jace, again, it's sometimes we've seen that, if you read a lot of things, and we've seen how boomers maybe might have a different perspective on work culture or work ethic than Gen Z. And Jace, you recently got your MBA, and you have made quite an impact at BAM, landing in a very influential position rather quickly. Can you share an example maybe of how you and Sam have merged your generational perspectives to create top-notch employee experiences, especially for your maintenance personnel?
Yeah. So I can start by saying that I'm just blessed to be here. That one of the things that we kind of wanted to also touch on is just the empowerment that we receive. Sam mentioned it just in talking to Adam and the freedom he has to form the program he wants. And that's something that leadership really believes in. And so it's been really nice that as we've grown and there are more resources, that I'm able to take a really unique look at, okay, what do we have? How can we leverage the resources we have, to be most effective for employees, and been placed in a position where I can have a voice in some of those things, which is really, really nice. In terms of how I think we collaborate, it's regardless of what, age you're at or generation you're at. I think for me, humility is really important. Sam has more than 40 years experience over what I have. So clearly Sam's going to have a lot of good things to say. And so it's just a matter of making sure that I can listen and hopefully. And I think also what we do is Sam will tell me, hey, I want to accomplish this. And so there have been times where I've been able to help Sam and say, hey, I know a way digitally that we can capture that, maybe distribute to the employees that, a more effective way. But I think we listen to one another well. We try to collaborate. But for myself, I would just say humility. I love to hear what Sam has to say about the company and the cautionary tales he has from previous workplaces that have grown a lot or too quickly, and how can we avoid becoming them. And so that's just things that I always love to hear and keep in mind.
And I would add to that it all comes down to making the right choice for the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when you get to that point, it doesn't require a lot of work. It just requires everybody to understand that it's the best thing for the company.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for that. I think one of the other questions I have are, or maybe that our listeners might enjoy hearing about, if you have any examples of a cautionary tale, maybe of something that Sam, maybe over the years, you've seen or heard about firsthand, and something that you guys use some of that intentionality to avoid at BAM, and how you made sure to avoid that.
So,
not to put you on the spot, but just thought that might be something our listeners might enjoy.
I do have in my past experience a company that I worked for, and it started out that it was like the greatest place I worked, just like BAM, the first 3 or 4 years. And it got off track because of the growth and the losing sight from leadership of what they were trying to accomplish for the team. So I found myself training people so that they could leave the company and go to another company and make more money. So I had this revolving door, and it's like every time I gave a class, half the people were people I never even met. So I think that growing at a fast pace can be done, but I think you have to keep your culture in place. Once you lose that, then things start to fall apart for everyone. So I think we're doing a pretty good job in keeping it together, and I think we keep adding to it all the time on how to maintain and retain people. And so one of the things that we've been doing now for over a year, which I will give some credit to JC Hart, that we did have a Friday lunch every Friday, but what we do different at BAM is we have a positive impact Friday every month so that we can sit down with everyone and everyone writes down on a piece of paper what was positive and bright for them for that month. And then we go around the room and we share it with one another. And so we do that monthly. We've been doing it for over a year. And we've got so good at it and so excited about it that we've now decided to let all of the sites do it the last Friday of every month. So they are now sharing in that experience.
Yeah, that's been really valuable, I think, too, because yeah, you're reflecting on what's gone well, which is always a healthy exercise, but it's also been really interesting because we all know more about each other in our lives than we did previously. It's this really, again, intentional time where everyone is sharing. And so you realize, oh, I didn't know that, so-and-so's child was going to be married in a few weeks. That's really exciting. They, had some prep for that. And so it creates a time to hear from everyone because in a growing company, when I started, we had like 15 people at our corporate office, and now we have over 50. And so instead of having an individual relationship with all 15 people, I can't do that with 50, even though I'd love to. And so it makes time that I can still know everyone and something about what's going on in their lives. And I'll also add to Sam's point about keeping really focused on the culture. And so we're kind of in the midst of a growth plan right now that our owners identified last year. And so in kind of talking with them about where we want to go and how many people we want to add, how many properties we want to add, my first question was, well, what do we do about the culture? Are we going to be able to maintain it if we double, triple in size in however many years? And I got all the information I needed because our founder, Ivan, made it really, really clear. And the way he says it is that our culture is our governor for growth. And so that is the factor that we always have to keep in mind. And so what I did over the last quarter was put together a culture scorecard. And so there are a bunch of health metrics that we've identified as a business. We've kind of weighted them, and then it creates one number on a 5-point scale. And so that'll tell us how our culture is doing. And we just revisit that quarterly. And so we say, okay, how are we doing? Do we need to revisit the growth plan? And so that's something that we're going to start doing in the quarters to come, which is exciting.
Wow, those are some really great tips. I think those are some great takeaways for people to hear also. Yeah, and it's interesting. A couple of things that I heard come through was that intentionality, the word relationships, right? Having relationships with people, and which I think in that it means understanding what people need, right? Like, so each person is different. To have a relationship with each person, it's different. You can't just have sort of a broad brushed relationship that fits for everybody. Oh, dang it. I just lost my train of thought. That's what happens at my age, Sam. I mean, I lose my train of thought right in the middle of the sentence sometimes. So that's what I just did. I was about to, recap something else, but hopefully it's recorded so we can go back to it. But if you guys wanted to, leave our listeners with one like big takeaway on, the key or tip to delivering an exceptional employee experience, what would it be?
Sam tapped me in. I think that the best way to distill it down is people over process. And that's something that it's a daily struggle. We all have our list of tasks that we have to accomplish, or the residents that come in, or the work orders that come into the system. But, for me too, like I've got a list of projects to work on, interviews that need to be conducted, but the thing I need to always remember is that we're a people business, like our owners say. And so when I get a Slack message from someone and they need help, I need to put that on my priority list, and I need to put it fairly high. And so even over these things that I feel like need to be done that day, I'd rather quantify my accomplishments and who was able to be impacted and helped that day rather than, what project I was able to get done.
So I guess I'll add to that in that I find that the leadership and all of that trickles down from the leadership, and from our leadership, people genuinely care about one another. So through that Slack messaging and communication piece, at first I fought it. I didn't like it. But now I see the beauty in it and how it keeps everyone connected and everybody communicating with each other. And you're communicating with people you may not have even met yet. So everybody, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the people in the company respond to a Slack message daily. I think it's that high.
Yeah.
So for me, it still goes back up to the top. The leadership is phenomenal, and none of this could be done without those two guys driving the car.
I agree. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I don't know that other companies will be able to have those leaders, but it sounds like you guys have provided at least some great tips that they can take away from that leadership. And I know also Ivan is great about posting on social media. So it's great. People can get a lot of great insights from him and that strategy as well there. So I just want to thank you guys so much for your time coming on here today. I think you guys shared so much great information about what other people can do to really drive that customer experience, the employee customer experience in their companies as well. And, continue to follow what the BAM fam is doing, because I know you guys are leading the pack on that. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope to our listeners, I hope you guys will join us on our next episode of CX Unplugged here on the Multifamily Media Network. And with that, we'll sign out.
Yeah. Thank you again for having us.
Thanks,
so great to chat.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Till next time.